What would haunt you more, losing someone you care about, or knowing you'd already seen it happen? I'm Gabrielle, and this is TheEndReel, where I tell true ghost stories, folklore, myths, legends, and strange cases that defy explanation. Real accounts retold for those of us who can't help but wonder what lingers after death, and what's waiting just beyond what we understand. So wherever you're listening from, turn down the lights and let's begin. In 1858, 24-year-old Samuel Clemens, who would later be better known by his pen name Mark Twain, was working on a paddle steamer to Pennsylvania alongside his younger brother Henry, plying the Mississippi from St. Louis to New Orleans. On the 15th of June, Samuel Clemens left the riverboat in New Orleans after an altercation with his pilot, but Henry, a mud clerk or general dog's body, remained in his post, and so the two brothers parted ways. Roughly a month earlier, Clemens had had a vivid nightmare while staying with his sister, in which he saw Henry's body lying in a metal coffin in his sister's sitting room. The coffin rested upon two chairs, and a bouquet with a single red flower in the centre lay on Henry's chest. Clemens had awoken convinced that Henry was dead and lying in the sitting room. He got dressed, thought of paying his respects, and decided to take a walk first. He'd gone half a block from the house before realising that it had all been just a dream. He returned to his sister's house and told her about the incident and the dream that caused it. The dream was to prove prophetic. After Clemens left the Pennsylvania, it started on its return journey to St. Louis, Clemens following 2 days behind on another steamer. Just past midnight on the 13th of June 1858, the Pennsylvania's boiler exploded, sinking the ship and killing 250 of the estimated 500 passengers and crew outright. Henry had been blown into the river by the initial blast, but swam back to the ship to help others before being overcome, but not yet killed by his injuries. Like other survivors of the explosion, Henry was taken ashore to Memphis, Tennessee, Clemens hurrying to his bedside as soon as possible. But it was clear that Henry was in a bad way. His lungs had been scalded by the steam, and he had suffered a head injury that left him less than fully conscious. As Clemens later wrote, he had full possession of his senses, only at long intervals and then only for a few moments at a time. His brain was injured by the concussion, and from that moment his great intellect was in ruin. Henry finally passed away on the 20th of June 1858, 7.5 days after the explosion. His death was a hard blow to his brother, and the grief and the exhaustion from tending to Henry for over a week left him in a dazed state. A sympathetic resident of Memphis took him to their home and gave him a bed where he passed out for several hours. When he awoke, he got dressed and went back to look for his brother. He found him in the makeshift mortuary that had been set up for the victims of the explosion. He also found that 2 more details from his dream had come true. While the majority of the accident's victims were buried in simple wooden coffins, the cheapest option, a group of local women had, for whatever reason, been so moved by Henry's death, they had taken it upon themselves to raise the money for a metal coffin. And so when Samuel Clemens walked into the mortuary, he found his brother's body lying in that coffin, wearing a donated suit, the coffin resting on 2 chairs. Shortly after, he stood beside the coffin, and a woman approached and added the final detail, a bouquet of flowers with a single red rose at the centre, which he laid on Henry's chest. Samuel Clemens was stricken by guilt over his brother's death, not least because he had been the one who had got Henry the job on the Pennsylvania in the first place, and held himself responsible for the rest of his life. But the experience and the dream that had foreseen it also sparked a lifelong interest in the parapsychology, with him later becoming an early member of the Society for Psychical Research. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 500 subscribers and it's taken a long time to get here, so if you could do that because you like the content, that would be really amazing. Leave a comment with your thoughts below. New episodes drop regularly, each one a dive into the strange, the haunted, and the things we were never meant to understand. Until next time, keep your lights low, your curiosity high, and stay tuned for the next episode of The End Reel.